Krishna.
Hi Krishna.
Back again. It seems like it's been a long time. So we're going to continue our reading from the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're happy if anyone can join in. So we'll just chant the invocation and then we'll pick up, and we're in which chapter?
Chapter 11.
11. We're up to 11 already. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so it's Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 17.
And this text has a very long purport, and it describes many different personalities. So it's really good, very informative. So, take notes. We're going to start back. In our last reading, we started it, but we're going to go back and start at the beginning and go through all the way through.
Okay, the verse. On hearing that the most dear Krishna was approaching Dwarkadam, magnanimous Vasudev, Akrura, Ugrasena, Balaram, the superhumanly powerful Pradyumna, Charudeshna, and Samba, the son of Jambavati, all extremely happy, abandoned resting, sitting, and dining. Proper. Vasudev. So he's the son of King Suryasena, husband of Devaki and father of Lord Sri Krishna. He is the brother of Kunti and father of Subhadra. Subhadra is married with her cousin Arjuna, and this system is still prevalent in some parts of India. Vasudev was appointed minister of Ugrasena, and later on he married 8 daughters of Ugrasena's brother Devaki. Devaka.
Like the last time.
Devaki is only one of them. Kamsa was his brother-in-law, and Vasudev accepted voluntary imprisonment by Kamsa on mutual agreement to deliver the 8th son of Devaki. This was foiled by the will of Krishna. As maternal uncle of the Pandavas, he took active part in the purificatory process of the Pandavas. He sent for the priest Kashyapa at the Satasringa Parvata, and he executed the functions. When Krishna appeared within the bars of Kamsa's prison house, he was transferred by Vasudev to the house of Nanda Maharaj, the foster father of Krishna at Gokula. Krishna disappeared along with Baladev prior to the disappearance of Vasudev, and Arjuna, Vasudev's nephew, undertook the charge of the funeral ceremony after Vasudev's disappearance.
Akrura, the commander-in-chief of the Vrishni dynasty, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Akrura attained success in devotional service to the Lord by the one single process of offering prayers. He was the husband of Sutani, daughter of Ahuka. He supported Arjuna when Arjuna took Subhadra forcibly away by the will of Krishna. Both Krishna and Akrura went to see Arjuna after his successful kidnapping of Subhadra. Both of them presented dowries to Arjuna after this incident. Akrura was present also when Abhimanyu, the son of Subhadra, was married with Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit. Ahuka, the father-in-law of Akrura, was not on good terms with Akrura, but both of them were devotees of the Lord. Interesting point.
Ugrasena, one of the powerful kings of the Vrishni dynasty and cousin of Maharaj Kunti Bhoja. His other name is Ahuka. His minister was Vasudev, and his son was the powerful Kamsa. This Kamsa imprisoned his father and became the king of Mathura. By the grace of Lord Krishna and his brother Lord Baladev, Kamsa was killed, and Ugrasena was reinstalled on the throne. When Salva attacked the city of Dwarka, Ugrasena fought very valiantly and repulsed the enemy. Ugrasena inquired from Naradaji about the divinity of Lord Krishna. When the Yadu dynasty was to be vanquished, Ugrasena was entrusted with the iron lump produced from the womb of Samba. He cut the iron lump into pieces and then pasted it and mixed it up with the seawater on the coast of Dwarka. After this, he ordered complete prohibition within the city of Dwarka and the kingdom. He got salvation after his death.
Baladev. He is the divine son of Vasudeva and his wife Rohini. He is also known as Rohini Nandana, the beloved son of Rohini. He was also entrusted to Nanda Maharaj along with his mother Rohini, when Vasudeva embraced imprisonment by mutual agreement with Kansa. So, Nanda Maharaj is also the foster father of Baladev, along with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna and Lord Baladev were constant companions from their very childhood, although they were stepbrothers. He is the plenary manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he is as good and powerful as Lord Krishna. He belongs to the Vishnu Tattva principle, the principle of Godhead. He attended the Swayamvar ceremony of Draupadi along with Sri Krishna. When Subhadra was kidnapped by Arjuna by the organized plan of Sri Krishna, Baladev was very angry with Arjuna and wanted to kill him at once. Interesting. Sri Krishna, for the sake of his dear friend, fell at the feet of Lord Baladev and implored him not to be so angry. Sri Baladev was thus satisfied. Similarly, he was once very angry with the Kauravas, and he wanted to throw their whole city into the depths of the Jamuna. But the Kauravas satisfied him by surrendering unto his divine lotus feet. He was actually the seventh son of Devaki prior to the birth of Lord Krishna. But by the will of the Lord, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini to escape the wrath of Kamsa. His other name is therefore Sankarshan, who is also the plenary portion of Sri Baladev. Because he is as powerful as Lord Krishna and can bestow spiritual power to the devotees, he is therefore known as Baladev. In the Vedas, also it is enjoined that no one can know the Supreme Lord without being favored by Baladev. Bala means spiritual strength, not physical. Some less intelligent persons interpret Bala as the strength of the body, but no one can have spiritual realization by physical strength. Physical strength ends with the end of the physical body, but spiritual strength follows the spirit soul to the next transmigration, and therefore the strength obtained by Baladev is never wasted. The strength is eternal, and thus Baladev is the original spiritual master of all the devotees. Jai Baladev ki jai.
Sri Baladev was also a class friend of Lord Sri Krishna as a student of Sandipani Muni. In his childhood, he killed many asuras along with Sri Krishna, and specifically he killed the Dhenukasura of Taliban. During the Kurukshetra battle, he remained neutral, and he tried his best not to bring about the fight. He was in favour of Duryodhan, but still he remained neutral. When there was a club fight between Duryodhan and Bhimsena, he was present on the spot. He was angry at Bhimsena when the latter struck Duryodhan on the thigh or below the belt, and he wanted to retaliate the unfair action. Lord Sri Krishna saved Bhim from his wrath, but he left the place at once, being disgusted at Bhimsena, and after his departure, Duryodhan fell to the ground to meet his death. The funeral ceremony of Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, was performed by him, as he was the maternal uncle. It was impossible to be performed by any one of the Pandavas, who were all overwhelmed with grief. At the last stage, he departed from this world by producing a great white snake from his mouth, and thus he was carried by Sheshanag in the shape of a serpent.
Pradyumna. Incarnation of Kamadev, or, according to others, incarnation of Sanat Kumar, born as the son of the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, and Lakshmi Devi, Srimati Rukmini, the principal queen at Dwarka. He was one of those who went to congratulate Arjuna upon his marrying Subhadra. He was one of the great generals who fought with Shalva, and while fighting with him, he became unconscious on the battlefield. His charioteer brought him back to the camp from the battlefield, and for this action, he was very sorry and rebuked by his charioteer. He was very sorry and rebuked his charioteer. However, he fought again with Shalva and was victorious. He heard all about the different demigods from Naradaji. He is one of the 4 plenary expansions of Lord Shri Krishna. He is the 3rd one. He inquired from his father, Shri Krishna, about the glories of the Brahmanas. During the fratricidal war amongst the descendants of Yadu, he died at the hand of Bhoja, another king of the Vrishnis. After his death, he was installed in his original position.
Charudeshna, another son of Lord Shri Krishna, Rukmini Devi. He was also present during the Swayambhava ceremony of Draupadi. He was a great warrior like his brothers and father. He fought with Vinidaka and killed him in the fight.
Samba, one of the great heroes of the Yadu dynasty and the son of Lord Shri Krishna, by his wife Jambavati. He learned the military art of throwing arrows from Arjuna, and he became a member of parliament during the time of Maharaj Yudhisthira. He was present during the Rajasuya Yagya of Maharaj Yudhisthira. When all the Vrishnis were assembled during the time of Prabhas Yagya, his glorious activities were narrated by Satyaki before Lord Baladev. He was also present along with his father, Lord Shri Krishna, during the Ashwamedha Yagya performed by Yudhisthira. He was present before some rishis falsely dressed as a pregnant woman by his brothers, and in fun, he asked the rishis what he was going to deliver. The rishis replied that he would deliver a lump of iron, which would be the cause of fratricidal war in the family of Yadu. The next day in the morning, Samba delivered a large lump of iron, which was entrusted to Ugrasen for necessary action. Actually, later on, there was the foretold fratricidal war, and Samba died in that war.
So all these sons of Lord Krishna left their respective palaces, and leaving aside all engagements, including lying down, sitting and dining, hastened toward their exalted father.
Thus ends that purport. Okay, text 18. They hastened toward the Lord on chariots with brahmanas bearing flowers. Before them were elephants, emblems of good fortune, conch shells, and bugles were sounded. The Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus they offered their respects, which were saturated with affection. Purport. The Vedic way of receiving a great personality creates an atmosphere of respect, which is saturated with affection and veneration for the person received. The auspicious atmosphere of such a reception depends on the paraphernalia described above, including conch shells, flowers, incense, decorated elephants, and the qualified Brahmins reciting verses from the Vedic literatures. Such a program of reception is full of sincerity on the part of both the receiver and the received. So you have to remember that next time you invite someone to your house, you have to make sure that you have elephants there, as well as qualified Brahmins and conch shells and flowers.
Text 19. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even to date, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord. By tricks of chance, one may be obliged to adopt a profession which is not very adorable in society, but that does not hamper one in executing devotional service to the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord is uncheckable in all circumstances. It is understood herewith that even in those days, about 5,000 years ago, there were prostitutes in a city like Dwarka, where Lord Krishna resided. This means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of society.
We're going to have a conversation about this one afterwards.
The government opens wine shops, but this does not mean that the government encourages the drinking of wine. The idea is that there is a class of men who will drink at any cost, and it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encourage illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions, and if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. It is better to maintain a class of prostitutes than to encourage prostitutes into society.
Within society.
Within. The real reformation is to enlighten all people to become devotees of the Lord, and that will check all kinds of deteriorating factors of life.
Sri Bilva Mangala Thakur, a great acharya of the Vishnu Swami Vaishnav sect, in his householder life was overly attached to a prostitute who happened to be a devotee of the Lord. One night, when the Thakur came to Chintamani's house in torrents of rain and thunder, Chintamani was astonished to see how the Thakur could come on such a dreadful night after crossing a foaming river which was full of waves. She said to the Thakur Bilvamangala that his attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted to the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. It was a momentous hour for the Thakur, and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. Later on, the Thakur accepted the prostitute as his spiritual master, and in several places of his literary works, he has glorified the name of Chintamani, who showed him the right path.
In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 32, the Lord says, O son of Pritha, even the low-born chandalas and those who are born in a family of unbelievers, and even the prostitutes shall attain perfection of life if they take shelter of unalloyed devotional service to me, because in the path of devotional service there are no impediments due to degraded birth and occupation. The path is open for everyone who agrees to follow it.
Interesting. It appears that the prostitutes of Dwarka, who were so eager to meet the Lord, were all his unalloyed devotees. And thus they were all on the path of salvation, according to the above version of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord, and thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. I'm going to read that again. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord, and thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. On the other hand, those who are non-devotees have no good qualifications whatsoever, however they may be materially advanced. The difference is that the devotees of the Lord are on the path of liberation, whereas the non-devotees are on the path of further entanglement in material bondage. The criterion of advancement of civilization is whether the people are educated and advanced on the path of salvation.
Text 20. Expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions, being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus they proceeded on and on. Purport. It appears that 5,000 years ago the society also needed the services of the dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, public speakers, etc. Dancers, singers, and dramatic artists mostly hailed from the Shudra community. Interesting. Whereas the learned historians, genealogists, and public speakers hailed from the Brahmana community. All of them belonged to a particular caste, and they became so trained in their respective families. Such dramatists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and public speakers would dwell on the subject of the Lord's superhuman activities in different ages and millenniums, and not on ordinary events. Nor were they in chronological order. All the Puranas are historical facts. Described only in relation with the Supreme Lord in different ages and times, as well as on different planets also. Therefore, we do not find any chronological order. The modern historians, therefore, cannot catch up the link, and thus they unauthoritatively remark that the Puranas are all imaginary stories only.
Even 100 years ago in India, all dramatic performances were centered around the superhuman activities of the Supreme Lord. The common people would be verily entertained by the performances of dramas and yatra parties played wonderfully on the superhuman activities of the Lord, and thus even the illiterate agriculturalist would be a participant in the knowledge of Vedic literature, despite a considerable lack of academic qualifications. Therefore, expert players in drama, dancers, singers, speakers, etc. are required for the spiritual enlightenment of the common man. The genealogists would give account completely of the descendants of a particular family. Even at the present moment, the guides in the pilgrimage sites of India submit a complete account of genealogical tables before a newcomer. This wonderful act sometimes attracts more customers to receive such important information.
Text 21. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. Purport. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is neither impersonal nor an inner object unable to reciprocate the feelings of his devotees. Here the word yatha vidhi, or just as it behooves, is significant. He reciprocates just as it behooves with his different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only, because they have no other object for service but the Lord. And therefore the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees just as it behooves, namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. There are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord also does not take any personal interest. He satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness, and a sample of such reciprocation is exhibited here with his different welcomers.
Sorry, the battery's going dead on the phone, and just wanted to try to plug it in, but I could stretch the cable. So, okay, this is text 22. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances, and awarding benedictions, even to the lowest in rank. Purport. To receive the Lord Sri Krishna, there were all grades of population, beginning from Vasudeva, Ugrasen, and Gargamuni, the father, grandfather, and teacher, down to the prostitutes and chandalas who are accustomed to eat dogs. And every one of them was properly greeted by the Lord in terms of rank and position. As pure living entities, all are the separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature, but the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels, despite material gradation. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom, and intelligent persons take advantage of this facility offered by the personality of Godhead to all living beings. No one is rejected by the Lord from the kingdom of God, and it remains with the living being to accept this or not.
This will be the last one. Text 23. Then the Lord personally entered the city, accompanied by elderly relatives and invalid brahmanas with their wives, all offering benedictions and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praised the glories of the Lord. Purport. The brahmanas in society were never attentive to banking matters for future retired life. When they were old invalids, they used to approach the assembly of the kings, and simply by praising the glorious deeds...
with their wives? Yeah, with their wives.
I haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay.
When they were old... I'll start again because I was interrupted.
Sorry, very sorry. I was important. It was about wives.
When they were old invalids, they used to approach the assembly of the kings, and simply by praising the glorious deeds performed by the kings along with their wives, they would be provided with all necessities of life. Such brahmanas were not, so to speak, flatterers of the kings, but the kings were actually glorified by their actions, and they were sincerely still more encouraged in pious acts by such brahmanas in a dignified way. Lord Sri Krishna is worthy of all glories, and the praying brahmanas and others were glorified themselves by chanting the glories of the Lord.
Okay, so we'll end there. Thank you very much for watching and reading. Srimad Bhagavatam offers us so much solace, and when we dive into the pastimes of the Lord and we hear the philosophy spoken by our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.